Hey everyone, Luke here, and oh my word, this chapter of Dr. Stone pretty much has just cemented in two things that I have predicted that are possibly going to come true. So, well, two things. One of them I know is coming true, and one that's a maybe. So, yeah, let's just dive right into it. Okay, so this will be chapter 217 titled Science Underdogs, and perfect title for the chapter, but one of the best titles I think we've had in a while for a Dr. Stone chapter, considering this is focused mainly on Chrome and Suika, who are the science underdogs here, and focusing on their attempts to actually convince the gang, like, hey, we don't agree with the suicide mission, so we've decided we'll create a two-man rocket. But the chapter starts off with them from the ending of the last chapter. We don't get a follow-up on the ending of the last chapter of like what the White Man is, but according to the Dr. Stone trivia, we do have a pretty much a location of where the Wyman actually is, because he says this isn't confirmed as this is a very pixelated photo, but the location on the moon here may be around the Edicanton and Celestis craters. I probably butchered their names. The surrounding craters seem to have been enlarged and crowded together somewhat for the manga's image, but their positions are similar. Like, okay, so they're in two of the more. So it seems like the Y-Man is sort of like near two of the more well-known craters, and maybe that's what happened like over the past thousands of years. Like, those craters have molded together to kind of form an even bigger crater that just keeps changing its form every single time somehow. But another thing that the Dr. Stone Trivia brought up on Twitter is that the Luna 13 spacecraft landed in a similar area to where the black spot is. Luna 13 was the third craft to land on the moon and was carrying scientific equipment for studying the moon's surface, and was lost on the 28th of December 1966 after its battery died, so communication was lost there. So maybe this is how the Y-Man has gotten some of the technology on the moon from various bits of left behind scientific equipment, or salvaging abandoned scientific equipment and kind of molding it into its own. So that's giving us a pretty awesome idea of some of the mysteries surrounding Y-Man about how they've been able to be doing what they are doing. But anyway, the chapter starts off properly with them saying, "We finally found him on the far off moon surface." Now that line kind of gets me thinking, like, maybe it is on the dark side of the moon, because far off moon surface, that the only way to describe that would probably be like, okay, it's on the dark side of the moon. The Kuroko is the one saying all of this by going, the one holding the secrets of the mass petrification, the mysterious mastermind known as Wyman, and everyone is just celebrating here. And wait a minute. Oh, sorry, guys. Is that Taiju? In Japan with Senku? Like, how did Taiju get there? Like, when did Taiju show up? Like, I'm serious. I can't believe me and Party Chums didn't discuss this in the chat. I can't believe, man, we left this out when we were doing our regular chapter discussions. Which, by the way, people come into the Control Chaos Discord and come and chat with us, because we do talks every week on the chapters, give our initial thoughts and everything. But seriously, that is one thing that I can't believe we didn't talk about. It's like, where did Taiju sort of spring up from? If that really is Taiju, because it sort of looks like him, unless I could be wrong. But yeah, no, that is pretty much Taiju there. That's a Taiju phrase of saying, yeah, we're coming for you, why, man? Yeah, that is pretty much a Taiju phrase. Uh, so, yeah, where did Taiju come from? Oh my god, Party Chance, maybe that was one of the people that voted for the two-way rocket, because Taiju would be one to do that. But seriously, where did he actually come from? Anyway, continuing on. I'm not mad at the chop. I'm just like surprised. Like I'm curious. Like when did Taiju show up? If that is meant to be Taiju there. But anyway, Kawaka goes on to say, now we can take the flight to him before he strikes. We'll hit him hard and fast. As Senku says, fire our one-way rocket, which ends with some of us petrified. Now somebody actually brought this up, which Party Giants brought up, the fact that Senku doesn't like to sacrifice people. He'll always find a way to kind of like keep them safe, and this is something that he probably thought about with the rocket. It's like how we actually going to do this, how we actually going to get back to Earth. But before he decided he couldn't think of anything, so it was best for him to be the one to actually go and sacrifice himself for the fate of humanity. But now that's completely being thrown out of the window with this chapter. I just thought it'd be nice to bring that up, showing how grave a character that Senku is, and the fact that he does care, but at the same time he's not good at showing it half the time. Anyway, Suika goes on to say, I guess it's a good thing we managed to find Y-Man, but now they're all so eager to launch the one-way rocket, we couldn't make the deadline to build our round trip to rocket in time. And I love this like moment of doubt from Suika, because it's not really something we've had for a while with her. Way back in the new Stoneworld arc, which, can you believe it's been 25 chapters since Suika alone in South America to now? Yeah, we certainly have come a long way. As Chrome is working diligently to try and get his plan into motion, we see Kazuki and Frankos looking at the globe and going, "Oh, it's finally time to build our rockets, to build a rocket that folks can fly. Using our revised world map, we must form a colonization on a global scale." Now, this is something that I kind of brought up last week. The fact that Pyjans thought that the globe, what we saw last week with the globe, was basically an excuse to get Ryusui and Chelsea traveling around the world off the screen. But this shot, I don't pretty much confirms that probably wasn't the case. Like, it was just to show, like, okay, we've got a picture of what the globe actually looks like now. But anyway, speaking of Ryusui, he goes on to say, global, more like galactic scale, will come together as one. Combining everyone's efforts is a tried and true strategy for the kingdom of science. Not going to get a Desire equals noble there, Ryusui. But anyway, this is where Chrome gets the idea of like coming together as one, galactic scale, and this is where he gets his brainwave as we see him going, finally my flash of inspiration. I thought up a way for everyone to survive and make it home in a two-way rocket made possible by science. As we get the title page, which shows Suika and Chrome in space, looking at the moon. Which if this is what's going to happen, this pretty much all of this with like Kohaku and that image of her in space, and Sinu talking about Kohaku being useful for the rocket mission. This is pretty much hammering it in on the head that Chrome and Suika are going to the moon here, because why else would you have this panel here? Like, I cannot feasibly see that the two rookie scientists, after everything they've been through, after contributing so much to the story, will be just like, yeah, we're just going to stay behind where you guys go. No, I cannot accept that. They are going to the moon, and how you may ask, when it's supposed to be only a 3-man mission? Yeah, the 3-man mission thing, that's pretty much being thrown out of the water in this chapter, with what Chrome's idea actually is. As we get Sai looking over Chrome and Suika's idea and being inspired by it himself, we cut to later on where we have a mega science conference which Chrome has created. Really, Chrome? You had one job to say bad science conference. You couldn't get a bad in there, like really. But according to the Dot Stone trivia, because yeah, we finally get the trivia in one of the on time now. The meeting Suika and Chrome call is held in the computer room, since that's the only hut with bricks. But they're not exactly sure where Chrome sets up everything, considering that the Cell 9000 takes up most of the room, but it's convenient with what actually is actually in that room. And yeah, just wanted to bring that up as just to get an idea of where we actually are in here. As we see, yeah, we got Mega Science Conference, even though it should really be bad, being set up as we see Rookie Scientists versus Super Scientists. Now, this is something that Party Jams expects to happen, and it's pretty much what I expected. Like Chrome eventually was going to come out and say, Seiku, I don't like what you're doing here, and I feel like that there has to be another way. I don't want you to sacrifice yourself. But we see Seiku here going. We see Seiku going here like, what's this? But he's saying it in like a. Do we really have to go through this right now? Really, Chrome? Suika, we have to go through this. But Sinu's expression is my favorite here. Is my favorite here. Yeah, because I imagine he's just thinking like, I wanted to be a dictator that ruled the world. I didn't want to have to do all this conference calls again. Yeah, but anyway, Chrome goes on to say, yeah, I don't agree with your crazy science mission in a one-way rocket. We could get our happy ending with a two-man rocket instead. And we see, quite a contrasting reaction here. We see Senku and Sinu being humble about it. It's like saying like, Chrome, I wish there was a way we could do that, but there's absolutely no way in the stone world we could do that. Like, that's the expression that they're giving off right here. But Gen's giving off like a, we're not really going there, are we? Are we really going there? Yeah, before we get him saying, before we get Gen saying, my sweet dear Chrome and Suika, naturally we all wish such a thing were possible, but no, Gen, you could not say that after that expression. You'd be like, we're not really going there, are we? Is that really possible? That's the kind of expression you would be giving, Gen. But anyway, Senku says, I'm sure you two already know the problem. A two-way rocket would have to be gigantic, and we need to start our test launches from scratch. Yeah, which basically means that I think this is hammering in to us at the audience that they're basically saying like, yeah, this arc is probably going to go on for 100 chapters at most. At the bare minimum, I'd say 100 chapters. Like, it's going to be a massively long arc based on what is set up in this chapter. And Sinu even elaborates on this, like, say, easily 5 times the risks and time commitment. I envisioning decades of work at least. Oh my god, are we gonna? So I guess we have to say goodbye to Chalk and Segway, since by the end of the series they're probably gonna die. Sorry to be a bummer on that, but that's just reality. That's just reality. Like their age is going to catch up to them because they weren't petrified. So yeah, they don't have the immortality crutch that everyone else has. Sorry guys, so we better prepare ourselves for that moment, and Suika better be preparing herself as well. Which I'm surprised that nobody has actually brought that up to Suika. Like, if we do this, you know that Chalk and Segare are not going to live to see it through to the end. Sorry to be a bummer and bring that up, but I had to if it's going to take decades, which I don't believe that it's probably going to happen. Although it might do, I'm not sure. We'll just have to wait and see. Despite these setbacks, Suika is more determined than ever. She says that's why this whole time Chrome has been racking his brain for an answer, searching for a way for the little rocket to somehow make it to the moon and back. And this is where Chrome reveals like what his master plan is. As he goes, on that note, check it out. The rookie science team, bad. The rookie science team's bad, never done before scheme. We're going to take that gigantic spaceship that can make it back home from the moon, and we're going to launch it there in 5 pieces. Then up in space, they combined into one megazord. I mean megaship. No, come on, it is a megazord. Interesting fun tidbit here. Senku birds, possibly a reference to the Thunderbirds, because when the rocket comes together, it kind of looks like Thunderbird 3, if you've seen a picture of Thunderbird 3, just without the rods. But more than that, the Doctor Stone trivia actually brought up that the five vehicles like the five Thunderbirds in Thunderbirds are pretty much replicated by Chrome in this image, which is a nice little detail, a nice little nod there. But this makes me wonder, like, since this is the plan to like launch them in 5 pieces, does that mean we have to have several people piloting in each piece so that it makes its way in space and actually combine together? Maybe we'll have to dock at the International Space Station. Now, part of John's and me were having a disagreement on this, like, because he thought that the International Space Station had crashed a long time ago, but as it's proven back in chapter 115, when we got the Byakuya death scene flashback, it shows pretty much that the ISS is still up there. Like, even like several years after Byakuya had made it back to Earth, like, it's still up there. So something is obviously, if it's still up there at this point, because we've had no confirmation, we've had nothing to confirm or deny that it's still up there. So we might actually get it docking at the International Space Station with this ship, which would be the case. It would make the most sense to kind of safely get them all combined together. But also we possibly would need more than one person to like pilot it, pilot this thing to kind of get it put together, which means we might actually get all the core key players plus a few other ones. Like, for example, this is something that I thought would be really cool, right? We get Taiju, Yuzuriya, Senku, and Tsukasa all piloting one together. Now, that may seem like an odd thing to do, but as the volumes will explain, I will get the one right now. Okay, now the reason why I mentioned those 4 in particular is because of the fantasy flashback that we got at the beginning of the series, where Tsukasa says, "Senku, if we had only met 3,000 years sooner, you might have just been my first ever friend." And we see them 4, and in the anime they add. I'm fairly certain that they add the scene where when all 4 of them are actually in space, because it doesn't show it. It doesn't show it here, but I'm pretty sure that there is a point in the anime where there's an anime only scene with them 4 in space. And even if that's the case, we definitely see clearly that Taiju, Yuzuriya, and Senku's dolls are in space. So it'll be kind of poetic and call back to the beginning of the series. But not only that, on the title page of that chapter, which was chapter 11, Weapon of Science, we see Senku, Taiju, and Yuzuriya in spacesuits in space with a rocket that says Senku 3. And what rocket? And what has Senku been calling the rockets? Yeah, that's right, Senku. So yeah, if that's the case, and we need various people to like pilot these things, I imagine that Yuzuriya, Taiju, Tsukasa, and Senku will be a group of people to actually pilot one of these. Obviously, now, if that's the case, we might get more people, so we might get Suika, Chrome, and Kohaku possibly piloting one together, and then get all the other key players, so like Ryusui, Chelsea, Gen, who else? Gen. Sinu, and maybe Stanley. They might revive Stanley to like be a pilot and also a warrior on the moon when we go to combat the kingdom, combat the White Man. You never know, but yeah, this seems like where we're actually going here. Like, there'll need to be more people to actually pilot these things to actually get combined together properly, because that's pretty much how it works. If we're going for like the combined into one mega ship, that's pretty much how it works in Power Rangers. We have several pilots piloted together to form the Megazord. So yeah, if that's the case, we'll be getting more people going to the moon, and not just the three people, because again, I feel like with this mission, to not have the rookie scientists go to the moon, that would be a huge disappointment, considering all they've done for the series and for the Kingdom of Science themselves. But anyway, continuing on, we get Kohaku, who's just looking really dumbfounded here, as always, when it comes to science. But we have Chelsea, Gen, and Yo just being like, just probably all having the same thought right now. Like, in the words of Chrome, this is such a bad and not in a good way idea. As we get saying, I'm speechless, before Koku says, I don't have a clue what this space stuff is all about, but even I can recognise one of Chrome's nutty schemes when I see it. I think anyone could notice, like, this is pretty nuts, but at the same time, this is where Sinu and Senku get a flash of inspiration, like, oh my god, this is something we didn't think about, but wow, it's amazing that Chrome and Suika thought about this. As we get Senku say the space in a nonchalant way, like, yeah, this has been done before, but at the same time he's still surprised by this. Kind of like when he's like, it was the water wheel, and we had Chrome going, oh, of course you know who it is, but him being surprised that Chrome even actually thought about it, and the fact that Chrome even thought about this idea as well is even more surprising to him. Again, showing that Chrome is easily, at some point before the end of the series, he's gonna surpass Senku. He's gonna surpass Senku in some way. Now, another thing that Party Jams actually brought up here is the fact that in an interview, Inagaki said that eventually Senku and his group are going to create something that hasn't been invented before, and this is probably the idea that he was going for, because it would make the most sense, and it wouldn't be contrived, and it would come completely out of nowhere. It would be something like, okay, if there is something that's going to be set up for them to surpass even modern technology, it would be basically the ultimate rocket, combining together in space, fully functioning, working to be able to go to the moon. That would be the thing that would be surpassing humanity, and that would be amazing. That would be so incredible. But anyway, Senku says the space station that Byakuya and the others lived in was also launched in pieces and assembled in space. And we get all the falling on the back gag of like, of course you already knew it. And Suika saying, oh, never before done plan was done before. Before Senku says, who cares if it's not a new idea? It's a wild, out of this world plan that falls 10 billion% outside of me and Sinu's thinking. And yet, before we get a bit of backstory on this idea, which Senior explains, once upon a time, even NASA theorized about launching a piecemeal spaceship. However, the fatal stumbling block is in the design. It's always in the design, but this is something that the Dr. Stone trivia brought up, where it says NASA's plans are a little more broad than just a rocket. Osama, on orbit searching, assemble and manufacture, intends to build structures for future space construction, such as large telescopes and sunshades. So yeah, this is pretty much Inagaki saying this was the idea that I had in mind, because it's going to happen in the future, but I'm making it happen now. I'm being the first to make this happen, of like something being being something that's going to be constructed in the future. But anyway, Sina goes on to explain that the complex design needed for a two-way spaceship comes in interlocking joinable sections, so it would involve several million individual components, which again pretty much cements my idea in of the fact that this arc is going to go on for a little while, considering that we've got so much to do with this, like the several million components, possibly going back to individual places, actually building the damn thing, building the spacesuits, doing the space training, and that's not even before we even get to the moon. Before we goes on and says, so what you're saying, if we put the population of the New World to work on crafting those millions of components, we stand a chance of creating this multi-part ship. Am I wrong? Like, no, you're not wrong, but yeah, it's gonna be a while. Like, let's give it, okay, for this part with what's going to be revealed, let's give them 15 chapters at least to make this all work, before we get Chrome and Suika just getting ecstatic about this, and again saying, oh, dear Ryu's unbridled desire rears its head. Yeah, no kidding, it does. Before Sai says, if nothing else, I've run the maths for these launches. And this is where Senku and Sinu start getting the idea that it might be possible before saying, yeah, it all works out on paper. Yeah, all works out on paper, but putting that into reality is a whole different story. It's a whole different story. As we get Sinu saying, a truly elegant motion, but not one I could call realistic. Nothing's anything can be realistic if you put the mind to it. Unless you're involving aliens, like, yeah, let's not bring aliens into the equation. Suika says, what if we all work together really hard? And Chad's say, yeah, like besties should. I'm surprised they're not more besties considering Pumpkin and watermelon helmet. Hey, maybe they'll go on more of a mission together in the future. And this is where we get Chrome being much more diligent and giving his inspiring speech to the people as he says, "Hey, let's ask everyone which plan they like better. That would mean revealing the pet blah 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 blah." Chrome says, "Hey, let's ask everyone sorry, I've lost my train of thought there, guys. Okay." This is where we get Chrome, like, inspiring speech. Like, I stumbled on my tongue there for a bit. Yeah, it gets its inspiring speech by saying, hey, let's ask everyone which plan they like better, before Gen says that that would mean revealing the petrification device's secrets. Like, seriously, you don't have to bring that up, Gen. You don't have to bring that up, and the fact that you're bringing it up means that more people are going to be curious about it now, and it's probably going to fall into the wrong hands. Okay, continuing on with Chrome's speech, he says, I know we're the rookie science team, and the super technical details are lost on us, which I'm glad this was brought up, because a lot of people are saying, like, how is Chrome going to build a rocket by himself? And most of us were like, he's not actually going to build the rocket. He's going to just get the idea in his head to try and convince them to build the rocket, to get everyone else to build the rocket. And he continues on by saying, so if you say it's 10 billion% impossible and the one-way trip is the only option, then I'll back off. So nice to see that Chrome is like, okay, if my idea doesn't work, then I'll accept that fact, even though I don't particularly like it. But he says that even if they've gotten even the slimmest shot at making this work, then the two sides should duke it out, one way or two way. All of us should decide, because that's how the Kingdom of Science works. We combine our strength to build and create, and we get Sinu and Senku being moved by Chromia by his impassioned speech and the fact that, yeah, he's right. That's how we work, and we should take that into consideration as we see them mumbling over something. Now we get the idea of what they were mumbling over later on in the chapter, but I like to think that Senku and Sinu were turning to each other and being like, yeah, Chrome and Suika, they deserve to go as well. They deserve to go to the moon as well. Before we cut over to Reese, we say this will be the Stoneworld's first democratic vote, and of course Sai, because he's Sai, brings out a voting machine, which is pretty simple. To put together as the if I can actually find it. Yeah, here it is. The Dr. Stone Trivia brought up that Sai managed to make a voting counter so fast because all you need to do is add 1 to a value per vote, and you also need to store 2 values, one for a total votes count, and one for either option A or B. Subtraction from the total to get the other amount. That method doesn't even account for the fact that one CPU register holds 16 bits, which is less than the 10 votes they had, and could have been used to count the votes. It'll be harder to reproduce the final results, however. So, so it's kind of basically just a simple thing that they already know how to manufacture. So it makes sense that Sai will be the one to bring it up. But this is an interesting fact. Thomas Edison Thomas Edison's first patented invention was a voting machine meant for Congress. But of course, they didn't want it. No surprising in those days. But yeah, interesting fact there that was one of Thomas Edison's first inventions, a voting machine. By the way, so Sai has created a voting machine, and he says one way or two way. Press one button or the other to record your vote secretly. Before Senku actually questions like, is there going to be any fraud? Is there going to be any tampering with the votes here, Sai? And Ryusui's like, are you doubting my brother, Senku? Because just like how you never lie about science, Sai would never lie about about calculations and coding itself. So I'm glad that we got a nice little moment for Ryusui acknowledging his brother and acknowledging his true skills when it comes to coding. And also a nice callback to Senku about how he gives his promise and he never lies about science. So nice touch there. And of course, the one that wins the result is the one-way trip. Nah, I'm just kidding. It was the two-way. So of course, the science rookies, the science underdogs, are the ones that get the win in the end. Before we get Senku agreeing that he wouldn't go back on it after Chrome says since we won fair and square, there's no going back on it. And Senku brings up that we've got a brutal road ahead of us. Yeah, no kidding. And of course, Suika says, we're in this too, anything to be helpful. Before we cut back over to Sai going, but the votes may have been anonymous, but there would be no harm in showing the tally, and it shows that nobody was on board with the one way. Even Senku and Sinu were not on board on the one way, and we get 10 people voting, which let's see, people are debating like who the 10 people actually are, and we get the idea of like it being Chrome, Suika, Sinu, Senku, Gen, Yo, Chelsea, Kohaku, Kazuki, Ryusui, and Sai, but then that's 11. So maybe take out Kazuki and you get 10 there. But it's a bit confusing. Exactly who actually voted, and I guess maybe Kazuki didn't vote to kind of give it a round even number. But I'm sure like even if he voted, he would have agreed on it. Like no, I'm glad that this was actually resolved. Although I would have liked it to be more like a disagreement, and maybe have created like a bit of a turf between between members of the Kingdom of Science. But anyway, they brought back democracy, and we had a democratic vote. So one fair and square in that vein, and it shows like again, Senku wasn't really on board with the idea of sacrificing himself, Tsukasa, and Ryusui. So yeah, but he couldn't think of any other way for it to actually come together until Chrome and Suika brought up this idea, and it kind of got him more excited. I'd say it got him more excited about this because and Cena as well, because I'm pretty sure they would have been curious, like, a benched NASA project that hasn't come to fruition yet. Maybe we can make it come to fruition, and that is exciting to us. As we get Chrome and Suika lifting their arms up as a celebration in their victory, we get Ukyo saying, "You and Cena were whispering earlier, and I happened to overhear something." Nice that they brought back Ukyo's insane hearing ability. Before Senku confirms exactly what they were talking about. Although I like to believe that they were talking about Chrome and Suika actually going up into space as well. I'd like to believe that, and even if they weren't, I like to have it in head canon that they did. But anyway, this is what Senku actually brings up. The whole world's got to work on this transforming rocket, and the only way to make it happen is if we hook up the stone world with the internet. Yep, I called it. I knew the internet was going to come back at some point. I wasn't the only one. I think Gen, because we have Gen saying the last name of the chapter, here we go at long last. Like, he expected this to be coming up. Like, he probably expected the internet at some point to come up when as soon as he's like, oh, computers, are we going to be bringing back the internet? He probably had that in the back of his mind. He's like, nah, there's no way we're going to be doing that. And now he's got it. As we get the whole world map being connected. Although this globe at the end of the chapter is a little bit flat lined at the top. Don't mention that to the flat earth staff. More ammunition to state. They'll have, and people would be crazy enough to do that. Like, there we go. This manga series from Japan. Clearly, they're flat earthers. Like, that's something that will probably that they will probably do. But anyway, we get not only Kazuki getting excited, but also Sai as well. It's like, yeah, I imagine this is probably Sai's ultimate dream. Like, I'm gonna create the internet. I'm gonna recreate the internet. That is something for me to really get excited about. Now, really good chapter this week. Got the resolution on the two-man rocket mission, and we're finally getting the internet back. Now, this begs the question: are we going to get more computers? Because they're going to need a computer to actually access the internet in other places, to actually connect everyone together, and also get satellite dishes in all the other places as well. But not only that, they're also probably going to have to build webcams because not everyone in the world is going to be going to the moon. So it would be nice if they could have webcams attached and doing live feed from up in space to actually see what the Y-Man is itself, and for all of humanity to see what is actually going on the moon. That'll be something really interesting to see about. And yeah, I wonder if we're actually going to go to more places to actually get more materials to actually craft not only the computers and also the satellite dishes and everything that's going to be needed together to get everything working, like wires, everything. Like, there's just so many different components, and that's not even getting into building the spaceship as well. Like, what is this spaceship going to look like? Like, what are we going to need for this spaceship? Are we going to need more than what we saw in the rocket, in the one-way rocket? Because we are going to need more than what we saw in the one-way rocket now. There's going to have to be a separate roadmap just for this two-way rocket, I imagine. And God, man, this series, it just keeps throwing surprise after surprise after surprise. And who knows how long this arc, saga part, or whatever is going to last. But hey, we're along for the ride now, and if they can pull this up, I think we can excuse the new Star World and the Globe-Trotting arc for being so short, because we might actually go back to these places and be like, okay, this is a place that wasn't originally on the roadmap, but we're gonna say up here, because they mentioned Africa in the last chapter. So it'd be interesting to see if we can actually go to Africa, actually set up Diamond City, which is what I've wanted for a while. So then we got all the major continents pretty much is established in there. So man, this series just keeps surprising me, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys.